Hey everybody, it's Wayne Defrancesco, and hopefully you're watching on the club site. If you haven't joined, hope you'll consider it. You'll get these videos first, you'll get all the instructional videos, and you'll get lots of other cool stuff to spend your time perusing. A lot of good golf stuff here. So, as you can see, we're looking at Players Champion Choi, whose swing will show us once and for all that over the top does not necessarily mean a disaster. So, let's take a look. We've got a really nice camera angle and a still camera over here at the Masters on number 12. And one of the great things about this swing is that the pin is right there, which is far left on the green. And if you look at where KJ is aiming, he's aiming at the inside of that center bunker right there, and that means he's not trying to cut this ball. So when you see this swing, you'll immediately think that he would have to be hitting, big fades on every shot, but that really isn't the case with Mr. Choi. He's pretty much a model of consistency. He really is a fine ball striker. His putting has held him back a little bit, but obviously he can roll them in with the best of them. But what you're going to see here is a swing that wouldn't be among the ones that I would draw up as examples to show my students, other than to show them that once again, golf is a great game, and it allows for a huge amount of variation as long as you have a number of elements that combine to allow you to hit the ball. One thing that KJ Choi has is there aren't very many guys who are as strong as he is. When he was younger, he was actually a power lifter, and I guess if you're going to be a power lifter more than like a day, you'd have to be pretty strong eventually. So let's take a look, and here we got the standard lines, the hip box, knee line, butt lines, shaft plane, head, front, top and front, and we'll take a look at the action of the swing. Real conventional takeaway, pretty much right up the shaft plane. You see the hands go slightly out. You see the left arm work just a hair away from the body, but certainly nothing radical about that. The left arm parallel position, if we look at the progression, it's fairly out in front of him. So we're going here from 56 to 66, so the 10-degree elevation there is starting to get to where you would call it, a swing that's a little more out in front of him. You can also see that the right elbow has not made it over to his side like it always would on a swing with a deeper progression. You'll note that the shaft is slightly flat of that, so it's probably about 10-15 degrees or so flat or shallow at this point. No discernible lowering. If anything, a little bit of hoist, a little lift there. You'll see the right knee start to bob toward the front of the box and the left knee go down and forward. These are all things that if I was working with someone who wasn't hitting it any good, I'd be probably suggesting that they change this stuff. Now, here's where it gets real interesting. We'll try to find it's almost hard to find the top of the swing for him because the thing is always looping up and over, so we'll kind of guesstimate to about here. So now we're up at 68. Now watch what happens now. You're not going to quibble with this position here. He's pretty thick trunked, but his right arm is still, upper right arm is still down a little bit in front of him. Neutral wrist, face looks a little open, shaft is nicely left. probably fractionally laid off if you draw the plane line up a few degrees. Now check this out. So most people would see that movement and go, this guy's probably not that good. But we know that he's very good. It's KJ Choi. So the hands shift above the high line and head above that line for a long time. But the interesting thing is what the shaft is doing, which is absolutely nothing. So this will tell you that shaft control and thus club face control is a huge component in getting the ball to go where you want. Another thing that this will show you is that when the hands are coming from high to low like this, if the club is leaning forward enough and the face is open, you don't have to cut the ball at all. In fact, you can easily hit a draw from here. That gets into the TrackMan numbers, the new ball flight laws, or if you want to call them that, and the idea that the club face and the descending angle of the club allows for the ball to take off and curve unlike you would think it would in an approach high to low like this. And you can also see that as he goes through it, his right leg sort of just kicks to the right. He finishes up out of the box. Now, one thing you do see, and you see it in every player, you'll never not see it really, is the lowering in the forward motion. So from the top right here to there, 3-4 inches of down, which I like to call compression into the ground. So let's watch that a couple times. Regular speed with the lines. So you'd watch him hit these shots and you'd figure he's got to be pull cutting this ball. But he isn't, which is pretty neat. So what I have sort of decided is that, I've seen enough of this now. The guys that keep the club way out in front of them like this, as long as the shaft is in between the arms and under control, that the guy's good enough, it's fine. You can do this. So let's watch the progression of the shaft as it moves around. So I'm going to draw a bunch of lines. Don't get freaked out. It's just where the shaft is. So you'll see from that laid off position that the shaft steepened just a hair. Now it's going to come down. We're going to draw another line here. So I'm getting the top of the club head and running it through his hands. So that's a little steeper again. And then we see another slight steepening. And then another one. Now this is that progression right there is really the key. The key to this. You'll see the proximity of those lines and how they are moving in toward the ball. So anything but stuck. Stuck would be something that would progress like this and eventually come in from way behind the hands, but he's doing the opposite of that. Now, let's watch him from the front side, and again, this is not evidence of the stuff that I like to teach, but not everybody does what I would suggest. Now, this camera moved a little bit, so here's how I kind of deal with the moving camera if I want to draw some lines. I'm going to put a line right on that T marker there. So notice how when the camera moved, the line is now to the right of the T marker just a little bit. So when I draw the lines on his body, I'm going to put it inside of his leg a hair, and then outside of this one just a hair, and then we'll get a little truer picture about where he ends up. Again, not exact science, but then again, I wasn't holding that camera. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look. So a little bit of a right load there. You can see his head move slightly to the right. And like we saw before, a little up. The right side remains pretty braced right up against the line. The left side loses a little bit of distance here away from its original position. Now you note in most good players that you won't see the head really move forward of the box that it starts in. The hips really barely go past where they started. So from here, only a couple inches. You will see most players move way more than that. So, but remember, this is a swing that twirls up and over. One of the reasons is a lack of lateral movement. Now, he makes up for that for sure by really not losing any angle in his wrist. So when he approaches this, now this is a 3-wood, and as you watch, he's going to get to the ball here, and when he hits it, he's going to lean that club forward about 5 degrees right at impact. So here's the shaft lean. So he's hitting down on this 3-wood. My guess is he just hits bullets and hits super long 3-woods. Now, I don't have a driver swing like this, or an iron swing, because you just take what you get. But I would say probably there's a pretty good chance. You can see it. He hits the ground here. If I get rid of these lines now, you can see the slight divot come up. So I kind of like guys that hit slightly down on their fairway woods. I teach that myself. But as you can see, he's got that thing delayed. And he's really driving into his left foot there. Alright, so interesting swing. Most people would say, that Choi's got a horrible swing, it's over the top, but very functional. And again, not really evidence of the stuff that I teach, but as I always say, function is the key. Golf's great because you figure out a way to do it for yourself, and if it works, good for you, and good for him. Okay.